This weekend podcast that we're not doing this week.
Jesus doesn't think you're a freak, or if he does, he thinks you're a freak in a good way.
Trust me, you two, I know what normal talk is.
Well, I'm talking today with DeVon Franklin.
Yes.
And I interviewed you about 100 years ago.
Is that right?
A long time. So far back, I can't even remember. But
What was it?
I honestly don't remember. It was one of your first projects.
Okay.
So great to meet you in person.
Great to meet you in person
Thanks
as
for
well.
taking some time to
Absolutely,
talk to me
my
today.
pleasure.
DeVon, tell me a little bit about how you got involved with Jesus Revolution.
Yeah, listen, I got a call from John Irwin and Kevin Downs. I'll never forget it. And if you know anything about John Irwin, who is the producer, the co-director, and co-writer of this film,
Yep.
He is one of the most persuasive people on the planet. They call me and they say, DeVon, we're making a film called Jesus Revolution. And I said, great, congrats. They were like, yeah, thank you for that.
Not why I'm calling.
Not why we're calling. We have a part that we want you to play. And we think you're the only person that can play it. And I was about to say, wait, I'm not an actor. But I didn't. I said, you want me to play the part? Okay. I said, let me read the script. So when I read the script, I was blown away with this story of this movement. And the part that I ultimately agreed to play was the journalist Josiah, who works for Time magazine. And you don't quite know what he's up to during the course of the film, and then it's all revealed at the end that he was working on a piece that would put this whole movement in historical context.
Yeah.
So that was my journey to the film, and I really tried to treat it like being an actor, So I worked with an acting coach for months and prepared and studied and really wanted to just get the history right and then also make sure I knew my lines, okay?
Yeah.
And so when I got to set, I wanted to be prepared, and so I'm just glad I didn't embarrass them or myself.
So what was it like to be on the other side of the camera?
Okay, so here's what it's like. Have you ever been skydiving?
Not yet.
Okay, all right.
And I have 3 kids, so I'm not sure my wife's going to let me at this point.
Well, it's like that. It's like skydiving. You're jumping out of the plane, and you're hoping the parachute opens when it needs to. That's what it's like in front of the camera. Because you've done all this preparation work, you've remembered your lines, and you're hoping when the director yells action, everything you need to know is right there for you.
Yeah.
All the emotion, all of the words, all of the intent, it's right there. And so being on the other side of the camera as a producer, I can look at the monitor on every take, and I can see, this isn't right, that needs to be fixed. I can go give the director notes. As an actor, there is no monitor.
Right.
All I had to do was just trust what the director said. Oh, that's good. And I'm like, really?
Didn't feel that good.
Right. It's like, no, that's great. So being in front of the camera was exhilarating, and it also requires a lot of faith, a lot of trust. When the director says it's good, you got to say, okay, all right, I got to trust. Because what I loved about it, just in terms of a faith perspective, think about God trying to direct us in our lives.
Yeah.
Right? God's like, okay, I want you to go here, I want you to do this. And sometimes we want to direct our own performance. But the director knows the story from beginning to end. So in the scene that I was in, John and Brent knew where the story was going. So my interpretation was very different than how they saw it. So when they said, hey, DeVon, that's good, I had to trust their word.
Yeah.
And the same way with God. When God says, hey, that's good, don't do any more.
I don't have to do it anymore.
That's it. We got to say, okay, God, okay.
Well, some of our folks may be familiar with some of the producer work you have done.
Yeah.
You've been around a long time. What are some of the things that you have produced over the last 20, 25 years?
Yeah, so I was an executive for Sony Pictures, and I worked on films like, The Pursuit of Happiness, and Karate Kid remake, and Jumping the Broom, and Heaven is for Real. And as a producer, I've produced Miracles from Heaven, The Star, Breakthrough, and a new film coming out this year called Flamin' Hot.
So I suspect that a lot of people know what a director does, or at least they think they know what a director does. What does a producer do? What is a producer's role in bringing a movie to life?
So let's use Jesus Revolution as an example.
Yeah.
The producer's role was to find the story, develop that story, sell that story to a studio. In this situation, it was Lionsgate. Oversee the development of that script to the point where they convince the studio to give them millions of dollars to make it. The producer hires the director. The producer works with the director on casting, wardrobe, locations, budget, And then once the movie is done, the producer oversees the post-process with the director and everything that goes into that film getting to theaters or ultimately on a streaming service. That is the role of the
So in
producer.
some ways, it's a bigger job than being a director, even though the directors
yes.
kind of get the glory.
Well, yeah, no, because sometimes if the director's not the producer, you could be as a producer working on a project for years before a director comes on board.
Right.
So the role of the producer is critical because the producer is responsible for finding material and selling material and doing everything that needs to be done to get that material made.
Okay. So I suspect there'll be a lot of Christians who are interested in this movie.
Yes.
Jesus Revolution. It doesn't get much more Jesus-y than that, right?
You would think, right?
And I also think, and I hope that there's some people who are not necessarily of a faith background or wouldn't call themselves Christians. What do you hope that those people especially take away from this story?
You know, I hope that anyone who comes to the movie and may not self-identify as a believer, you know, or someone of faith in the traditional sense, my hope is that they would come away from the film, first of all, with love. Second of all, perspective. And third of all, maybe curiosity to say, wow.
What's that Jesus thing all about?
Yeah, like, wow, I got to really explore this. Because if I can experience the type of love and acceptance that's portrayed in the film, maybe that's the answer to my lifelong quest.
Yeah.
So my hope is that curiosity, you know, the film becomes a catalyst for spiritual change and transformation.
Well, and the interesting thing is I saw the film, I thought was, man, so many cultural parallels.
Yeah.
Like our moment right now feels a lot like that moment in the late 60s, early 70s.
Definitely.
You know,
It
would you agree
really
with
does.
that?
I agree with that. I agree, you know.
So I shouldn't ask you a yes or no
Yeah.
question. Do you think this is a good idea?
Yeah, no, I do think it's a great idea. And I think that, you know, my hope is that not just those that may not self-identify as believers, but for those in the church. For those that say, oh, I love Christ. My hope is that when they see this film, that they're changed and convicted too. Changed and convicted to be more loving, to be more accepting, to be less judgmental, to let God do the convicting. You know, we're not anyone's judge or jury, and the movie portrays that beautifully. So my hope is that people of faith, that identify as people of faith, would come to this film and say, wow, I've got to be more loving. I've got to be more accepting. We have to have churches where the doors are open. Not just not just physically, but metaphorically as well.
Yeah.
So often we want to say, well, you know.
Not you.
Nah, you know. And I think that does a disservice to the kingdom. We are all God's children. So for those of us that say we have Christ, how could we ever make a child of God not feel like one? Our job is to make everyone feel accepted and let God do the rest.
All right. DeVon, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Of course, it's good to see you.